Hello, a good afternoon to our viewers, and thank you for always joining us. Thank you for always creating time for us. It's the real chat with Mrs. Mutekanga, and our guests are already in studio. Thank you so much to our guests for accepting our invitation. So, our today's episode, we are talking about having sex talks with our children. And during our last episode, actually, we talked about empowering the boy and the girl child. And from the discussion and the submissions, we actually noticed that we need for a functional economy, we need both an empowered boy and an empowered girl. I think I'm actually getting marks on this because I have brought Fred and Eddie on board. And I believe we will continue doing the same in our different organizations. And everywhere we go, we need both a boy and a girl child. So, putting that aside, I want to say, okay, to our viewers, thank you so much once again for joining in. It's the real chat with Mrs. Mutekanga, and our topic is having sex talks with our children. Like I said before, when we talk about this, when you bring this topic, the parents will wonder, how do I even start? Eh? What do I say? What do I leave out? At what age? And all these questions have been there, and maybe they've never been answered. And that's why some parents feel they can't actually go ahead and have such kind of talks with their children. So I'm going to first of all allow our guests introduce themselves so that we get to know them before we actually get to hear from them regarding the topic. So we are starting with you, Stella. Kindly introduce yourself and say hello to the viewers.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Irene. My name is Stella Ayerango, and I'm a teacher by profession, a former banker because I walked out of teaching, not completely, but went into the banking sector, worked, did my part, and came out. Right now, I'm into business. And then on the other hand, I'm with York, Young African Women Congress, as the media and liaison person for the Ugandan chapter. It's very good to hear and to be here, and thanks for the invite. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stella, and we are so blessed and honored to have you today. And thank you for accepting our invitation. So, Fred, kindly introduce yourself.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I am happy to be on chat once again with Mrs. Mutekanga. My name is Fred Kibirango. I work with the Sun Initiative, and we work with boys to create safe spaces for girls. Yes, that is it.
Okay, thank you so much, Fred, for joining us today. And we are always humbled and honored to have you join us. Our next speaker is Eddie.
Thank you so much. My name is Eddy Owino, and I am a global well-being envoy for Emerging Society from Kenya. And the organization I am in right now aids to empower the youth. It's a youth-led organization where it aims to empower the youth, where like it brings out the inclusivity and fairness. And also, setting that aside, I am also a healthcare personnel and a clinical researcher, as my articles have been published in East African Medical Journal. And I am an advocate for human rights and gender equality, and also the well-being for the community to have good health, and nutrition. Thank you. That's all I have for today.
Oh, okay, thank you so much, Eddie, for accepting our invitation and being a part of this episode. And I must say, we are truly honored to have you join us all the way from Kenya. What a
Thank you.
blessing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, our next guest speaker is Jackie.
Yes.
Okay,
Hello, everyone. I'm Nagadya Jackie, working with Public Health Ambassadors Uganda. Currently, I implement a preach project in Luwero District, and I'm also a Women Deliver Young Leader class of 2020, a global leading organization with an advocacy agenda of gender equality and well-being of girls and young women. Thank you. Thank you. I was able to speak.
yes, Jackie. I think we lost the connection a
Hello.
bit. You can continue.
I can do it again.
Yes, yes,
Hello,
please.
everyone. I'm Nagadya Jackie, working with Public Health Ambassadors Uganda. I implement a PAGE project in Luwero District, and currently I'm a Women Deliver Young Leader, Class 2020, a global leading organization that is aimed at having an advocacy agenda for gender equality for the young girls and young women for their well-being. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jackie, for accepting our invitation. We are honored to have you today. And like I've already said, we are here trying to answer the so many questions that parents have. They want to talk to their children, but maybe they don't know how best to do it. They don't know how even important it is to actually talk to their children about it, because as we were growing up, actually, I don't think most of us had from our parents anything to do with sex. And if they are to say it, most of the time they say, don't. And we don't ever know, as in children, don't ever get to know what can we do. If you're saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and yet you're not telling us what exactly we can do, the do's and don'ts. We hear mostly about the don'ts, and we don't get to hear that do this, do that, or do this. So I'm going to invite our first guest speaker, Stella, to actually help us understand what we mean when we talk about sex talks and the importance of having these talks with our children. Over to you, Stella.
Thank you very much, Irene. Um, Having sex talks with our children is only possible when we get to understand exactly what sex talks mean, what sex is. And I have added in something else that will help us understand the talk, and that is sexuality. So in my introduction today, I'm going to introduce sex and sexuality so that we get both things right. Now, starting with sex. Sex is basically, one, the fact that you are male or female. Many times you've heard when a child is born, they ask what is the sex of the child. And then maybe when you go to the hospital and you're filling in the hospital forms, there's that part which says sex. So you have to pick and show that you're either female or male. Then, on the other hand, sex is that short abbreviation for sexual intercourse or sexual union. Basically, that is the word sex. Then, when we go to sexuality, which I think it's very important in the understanding of sex as far as the parents and the children are concerned. Sexuality is just the expression of who you are as a person. You know, the manness or the maleness in you or the femaleness in you. That's your sexuality. It is that identity, the identity that you take up as soon as you're born. And it goes through life. And then maybe it ends only when you're dead. That is your sexuality. Of course, it is a fusion between a lot of things, such as your gender identity, your role as a male or female in a society, your sexual orientation. People have different sexual orientations. Some would say I'm straight, some would say I'm gay. Then it also encompasses the relationships, the intimacy, and then of course the love, love and relationships, the love and relationships, and that all brings in, it is.
Hey, I think Stella's network has been disrupted a bit. So, Jackie, I think you can pick it up from there.
Yes.
Mm.
So, talking about sex talks, most people would think sex talks you're encouraging like someone to have sex, most especially to the young people. But to clarify that, a sex talk is informing you're informing a young girl or boy about their bodily development, their sex, their sexuality, their relationship. This would help them to make informed decisions when it comes to their sexual health. So most people would think that when you talk about sex, you're trying to tell them the penetration bit of it or the sexual intercourse. But you're encouraging it, which is not the case. Having it is building knowledge, skills for the young people so that they're able to make informed decisions about sex. And as parents, almost parents, they always need to have always this time for the young children, because we are talking about children between the, actually we start to talk about children from 0 to 2 years or 0 to 3 years. Then there is that pre-teen and then the teenager. So we have the children also, they need that sex talk, and also the pre-teens and the teenagers also need sex talks. But they would differ. With a child or children, you'd tell them how they are able to identify the body parts on them, what is good, what is bad. But as parents, you have to use the right language. When it comes to the preteens, since they are transitioning into adolescence, they also have to know about their bodily changes in their bodies. Are they ready to date? You could find that some teens are having crushes already, so they are ready to date. And as for teenagers, we are talking about that prevention bit of it. We are trying to make informed decisions for young people, because we have seen in this year the COVID-19 has created so much impact that there are high teenage pregnancy rates among the teenagers, because maybe there is that lacking bit of it of having the sex talk from homes, right from homes. Most parents shun away to talk about it. The schools, the religious leaders, they think talking about sex is initiating it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jackie. And I see Stella is back. I see Stella is back, so she can continue and conclude with her submissions.
Sorry about that. I think the network just chopped me off. So, just as I was saying, the sexuality, as an introduction, sexuality, of course, is influenced by a lot of things. Your sexuality can be influenced by the family that you're in, the culture that you come from, the society that you live in, and among others, faith and belief. So, a person's attitude and values go a long way in molding up the sexuality of a person. So that is the introduction that I would like to give about sexuality. Therefore, in relation to sex and sexuality, and with that understanding, having the sex talk with our children should involve things that go systematically. You're not going to wake up in the morning and begin talking to a 3-year-old about sex intimacy, how to protect themselves. But then it should start from somewhere. Of course, it starts with them understanding who they are. They have to first understand what makes me a girl and what makes me a boy. So once they have understood the differences, this is a boy and this is a guy, a girl, then it becomes very easy to explain to them as they grow that now the body of the girl is like this and it is supposed to be treated this way. It also helps the parents that talk should also be directed towards letting the children know and understand that at some point this body, this little body is going to grow. And then as the little body grows, there are changes that will come with the growth. So the child will understand that, okay, my dad, my mom told me this is my body and this is what is going to happen when I grow. So it helps, it prepares them. The talk should be aimed towards preparing them for the changes that come, especially during puberty. Then, of course, how these changes will affect their relationships with others. And in this case, you will be directing the talk towards respecting, the way somebody looks. Of course, you're not going to, like, the little girl is not going to see the brother growing a beard and then will begin asking questions like, okay, is he normal or is that boy normal? But if as a parent, you've already guided them towards the changes that come with their growth, then they should be able to understand exactly what the changes are. That is, the foundation that you're giving the child with the talks. Also, the talk should be directed towards the challenges that may arise, in the child. Like I said, a boy grows, from childhood, suddenly his voice is changing, suddenly everything about him looks awkward. So the talk that you give the child should be able to prepare them for the challenges, that challenge of questioning their identity at some point and understanding that, okay, I am normal. Then also as a parent, the sex talk that you should be aiming at the children should help them to deal with these, the consequences that come with, poor decisions that you have made, like for instance, your body has changed. Now that comes in teenage, of course. Because if you've prepared the child at puberty, then they get into teenage, they should be able to understand that, okay, if I do this with my body, if I go and have, for instance, unprotected sex, if you go and have unprotected sex, you are going to get a girl pregnant, or you as a girl, you're going to get pregnant. So that talk as a parent should also direct you towards helping them deal with the consequences that will come or that will arise with the misuse of their bodies as they grow. So that basically summarizes my introduction to sex talks between parents and children. The bottom line is, you as the parent, you're the very first person who is going to have contact with the children. So whatever you tell them at whatever age, especially at a younger age, a much, much younger age, is what is going to stick into their memories, and that is going to be their reference for life. So you tell them the truth and help them to deal with that truth. It will make a better person who will be able to respect their bodies and make proper decisions in life. Thank you. Hello. Then
Yes.
there is the question about why it is important. Why is it important for parents to talk with their children? Why is it important for a parent to boldly take that, step and talk to the children about sex and sexuality? Of course, I have brought a lot of it out from my introduction, but I'm going to mention, like, in a quickly, that one, it helps them to understand themselves right at the word go. And once you have built a confidence in the child, an understanding of themselves and who they are, nobody is going to take that away. So it really helps them to understand. Then it instills in the children that talk. For instance, when you're telling the girl, that's your brother. His body looks like that.
I'm
He has
muting you
those
guys.
things which you don't have because he's a boy. So don't touch him. Don't touch him. That girl will learn to respect the body of a boy. And on the other hand, if you teach the young boy not to touch the sister inappropriately, he will learn from a very, very early age that, okay, it is not nice to touch a girl inappropriately. So that's one importance of the parents, talking to the children about sex at a very early age. Like I also said quickly, it also prepares them for the changes that come in life and how they will deal with those changes. And then, most importantly, it builds their confidence. The girl will know that this is my body and no one is supposed to touch me like this. And it creates a kind of assertiveness. When you tell a child something at a very early age, that is what is going to get into the head. And as parents, if you don't talk to the child about sex and sexuality, somebody else is going to talk to them about it, or they're going to find out on their own. And what they are finding out may not be exactly what you as the parent would have loved the child to find out. So it is very important, hard as it may seem, to take the first step and talk to the children about sex and sexuality and give them a gradual understanding of what it is as they grow. Back to you, Irene. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Stella, for that introduction. Really, now I know our viewers know what the topic is about and how it's going to be, how it's going to proceed. So, as Stella has said, we found out it is important for us parents to actually talk to our children about sex and sexuality. So I'm going to bring in Eddie so that he helps us understand, because I've seen Jennifer Mirembe is asking, at what age should a parent start talking to the child about sexuality and sex? So, Eddie, kindly respond to that. At what age should parents have sex talks with their children? And if I may rephrase it, what is the right time for us to start having these talks?
Thank you, Irene, for giving me this chance, like also to let us discuss like about sex talk. Before I continue or I go into at what age or which time for parents to discuss or talk with their children about sex, let me tackle about what my colleagues have talked about, like Stella and Jackie, about what is sex talk and the importance. As Jackie and Stella said, they have like kind of talked much about it, and like at least we have understand. Though I can just inject some ideas and like my view about sex talk. Sex talk is like the discussion, comprehensive discussion of what is sexuality and reproductive health. What is the human development in terms of anatomy, and also in base of gender equality and human rights. If we put that in the context of sex, not just intercourse, we will understand broadly what sex is. And because sex is where like you talk with anyone, your child, like your children, your peers, and even community about their sexuality and reproductive health. And also not living alone, not leaving behind. I meant not leaving behind relationship. Because like most of the time, like we tend to, after growing up at puberty, we tend to have like emotional attachment towards our opposite sex. So relationships. So as I've talked about the introduction of sex talk, on my own opinion, now let me go to the importance for parents to have sex talks with their children. Having sex talks at early age helps a lot. First, it helps the use of contraceptives, whereby there won't be any unwanted pregnancy. There won't be any school dropouts from the girls' side, as there will be equal, they will continue with their education. That's like right to education, which curbs the human right. Again, sex talk helps to reduce a number of partners someone has, because at teenage stage our children tend to explore and experiment. So without sex talk, they'll try to kinda have many partners. They will kinda try to experiment on their own, venture on their own, which is very wanting and disturbing, because they don't know what's outside there. And it's only us parents who can talk and instill the knowledge in them. Another thing, sex talk helps to reduce sexual transmitted infections like HIV, not leaving behind gonorrhea, not leaving behind syphilis, which are the diseases that are curbing us today. And we should talk, instill this knowledge in our children so that they can understand the world they are living in. Not even living in, but also understand that sexuality and what need to be done without making mistake that they'll regret in future. Another thing, sex talk brings out the strong connection between the parents and the children. You see, it also builds a stronger interpersonal skills between the parent and the child. Children, after knowing what sex is in a broader perspective of gender, relationships, human development, they'll be able to make a concrete decision. They'll be able to effective communicate with other people and their peers and even the community. They will be able to solve problems on their own on critical issues without waiting for others to jump in. And again, sex talk helps to build the strong self-esteem in our children. First, after in puberty, like Stella talked about, there is this physical development. Jackie talked about there is this physical development in our adolescent children. There will be enlargement of hips. There will be like enlargement of breast. There will be pimples on our side of the boy. There will be pimples, appearance of pimples. There also will be like voice breaking, where they'll have bass, and they'll be like in the house. You'll like see a man talking in the house. You think like it's the man in the house, the head of the house, but it's just a child. It brings the social support also, whereby they will have strong emotional and physical development in aspect of health. And also, finishing on the importance, they will appreciate and accept and develop these attitudes, positive attitudes towards each other in promoting gender equality. So I've tackled about sex talk and I've tackled about importance for parents. So let me move forward to at what age and when is the right time for parents to have sex talk with their children. As Jackie talked about earlier, it doesn't depend on age. Sex talk is wide and broad. At the preteen, we should talk to our children about gender equality, human rights, so that there won't be like any sexual abuse or harassment. We should also tackle the part of reproductive health. And then when we're going to our adolescent children, now there we can talk about the topic of intercourse, because you cannot tell me at the preteen you will talk somebody who is 10 years and below, you'll bring the topic of intercourse. No. So at puberty, at the adolescent stage, and those people who are in high school, there should be a topic like the intercourse, the relationship they're having, and the way how to view sex. So at what age and when is the right time for parents to have sex? I don't think there is no age, provided you speak the right information at the right time. Yeah. So that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Eddie, for that submission. And like you've really put it, there is no age. I think you can talk to your child at any age. And this brings me to our next topic or point of discussion. And this goes to Jackie. Jackie, you're going to help our viewers understand how exactly can we initiate this conversation? Because like the way Eddie has said, there is no age. But then what do we say to a child of what age? You get what should we say and what shouldn't we say regarding to age? Because like Jennifer asked, what age or what time do we start having these conversations? And then Eddie says we can start these conversations at any age, whether 1 year or 2 years or 15 years. But what do we say to who and when?
So it starts from when you read somewhere, it's as child starts understanding from 0 years, they start understanding. You find that some children at 2 years, they like, you can tell a child when they start touching their private parts. That means they're trying to feel, what is this on my body? Am I having a penis? Am I having a vagina? So they're trying to feel like, what is this that is on my body that is different? Or they could see it on some other people. So I believe children start understanding from 0 years, even 1, 2, and above. But as parents, they need to normalize the talk about the talk, the sex talk. They need to normalize it with their children so that it doesn't get intense when their children are older. So that means sex is a series of talk. Parents would build it with their children so that it's easy to always talk with their children on a daily basis. But parents have to take into consideration that when you're initiating this talk, you have to be very comfortable. As a parent, you don't have to act like it's uncomfortable. Oh my God, I'm shy. As a parent, you don't have to be shy. So you have to be very comfortable and say, I'm going to talk about this. This is what happens. Okay, if you have a girlfriend, are you ready to have sex? Are you ready to use protection? So there is that talk. You have to be very comfortable and very open about it. Secondly, talking early saves you a lot. The more the child grows, the more they feel like, okay, I can no longer talk to my parents about it. Let me just keep it to myself. Then thirdly, we have to always use the right language as parents. We having nicknames, because you find that some children are told nicknames to their private parts when they're young, like Susu, but you have to tell them this is the right word. Because most times using the right language saves a lot from sexual harassment and gender based violence, because we see it's rampant and people take advantage because the child is ignorant about their private parts, that it's not supposed to be touched by anyone else. So parents have to be open to their children and tell them this is not supposed to be touched right from the age of 2 or 1 year, that this is yours and it's private. And also parents have to take into consideration that there are also boys at home, brothers and sisters, and we have seen incest happen. So also parents have to monitor homes, separating the girls. Girls also have to know their limit. I'm supposed to come out of a bathroom dressed, covered, to save myself from any sexual harassment. Then, thirdly, we also need to take into consideration that children also read a lot about sex using internet as parents. So opening up early saves a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you so much, Jackie. And like the way she has said, I've heard of cases or situations where you find like a 1 or 2 year old and maybe a 4 year old, they they go somewhere and they start doing those things. So for you, as you're waiting for your child to be maybe 9 years, 10 years, uh, they are seriously already doing things. So it's better you come to them early enough, tell them this is what you're supposed to do, this is not what you're supposed to do. Don't think they are young, because like the way Jackie has said, the kids are so exposed, and if they don't hear it from you, like Stella has said, they will actually hear it from someone else, and you don't know what that someone else is going to tell them. So and I would like to bring in Fred, kindly come in and add your voice to what Jackie has said about how we can initiate this kind of conversation, what we should say and what we shouldn't say to kids or our children, putting in mind the age.
Yeah, I was following the discussion, and I'm grateful to the members that have submitted. I'm learning a lot as well. But what I can say is even our parents culturally had a way of doing it, though it was a little shy. Like if in Uganda, if you look at our local languages, each local language had a petty name for the genitalia, the private part. And so that petty name that was given had a lot of meaning that was hidden behind it. For example, in Busoga, they use the word called akasisa. That word literally means a caterpillar. And so that name was given in Busoga to the genitalia, the private area, so that the children would fear. It's not because the caterpillar is feared, and women can identify with that because they fear caterpillars, most of them at least. So that place was not to be touched. So the message was there, telling them that is a private place. It's not supposed to be touched by anyone. It is just you and your parents while you're still young, and maybe your spouse when you grow up. So um, and also, I want also to bring into context the setting, the family settings that we have. For example, in Uganda and also East Africa at large, I know they are kind of similar. So you find that we have the majority of children living um, in um, in one I call them self-contained rooms, where it is one room and then it is just a curtain separating the bedroom of the parents. The children sleep down, and so these children are exposed already from a very young age, a tender age. They hear the noises and the things that happen, and so it is very important, and I'm grateful that this topic is here for us to discuss. And I just want to add on the submissions earlier made that um, there is no particular age that you can say this is the age to start from, because sex was defined very well. They are just biological characteristics that define who a man is, who a female is, and who a male is. And that is according to the World Health Organization. So meaning, even at a tender age, these children can start knowing, differentiating, accepting, knowing their body, accepting their body. So it is progressive. Because I already have a baby who is about yeah, our baby has made a year, and already when he's naked, he already touches his genitalia. He likes touching there. I cannot explain why, but this shows that they start knowing their bodies and accepting who they are. So meaning that there are things that can trigger. You know, sometimes the parents, especially the men like me, the fathers, when the children come to them and ask some of these difficult questions, they say, go and ask your mother. And yet, this is the right time when they bring these questions. It's the right time for you to sit them down and tell them, because surely, as the earlier our speakers submitted, if you don't do it, trust me, somebody else is going to tell them, and I know you will not love what they will be told. So it is very, very important for us to be attentive to those triggers that keep coming. When the children are curious and they are asking, this is the time for us to tell them appropriately, starting from their body and then moving on to the greater areas of sexuality, so that the children come to know and accept who they are. I think that is what I can submit for now.
Okay, thank you so much, Fred, for that submission. And it is really true and right. And I will keep on echoing it. But let me first bring in Stella so that she can also add her voice on what has been said.
Thank you very much. I must agree with the previous speaker that we are really learning a lot. There's one thing that I would like to put out there. Every talk that you give about sex at whatever age is very, very important, because as you talk to the children about sex, their bodies so freely, you're building in them the confidence to approach you when they have grown older. You know, that time, how do you initiate that talk? When your child clocks to 15, 16, and 17, trust me, as a parent, if you have not developed that connection between you and the child, if you've not created that ease to communicate between you and the child, there is no way you're going to introduce that sex topic completely and they will take it, because at that time they have already learned it from somebody else. And what has gotten into their mind, they will try and argue it out with you. So your point is not going to be driven home comfortably. That is why when it comes to the sex talks, it is important to start at a very, very early age and progress. It is work in progress, by the way, for the parents. You're not going to wake up one morning when your child has grown up and then you call him and say, now let's start talking about sex. Even you as the parent, you're not going to be comfortable. You're going to feel shy to begin talking about it because you've never talked about it to the child. So it's always important to start early and let them grow with you, build their confidence, let them reach out to you. In dealing with adolescents, teens, and their problems, trust me, if this child is already having problems, maybe with pregnancy, teenage pregnancies, or it is a boy who is already abusing some other child, if he is already doing that, he needs to accept that it is a problem before you as a parent can come and talk to him comfortably about it. For as long as this teenager has not accepted that it is a problem, for as long as they are not seeing what they're doing as a problem, for as long as your little girl thinks it is okay to go and sleep with any girl out, with any boy out there and come back home, for as long as she doesn't see that as a problem, for as long as you've not told her or him at an early age, they will not approach you to talk about it. And even if you did, it is going to be very difficult for you to get through. So my advice is, let us talk to the children. Let us build their confidence and ours as they grow, and make it easier for us to talk to them when the right time comes or when they are growing older. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stella, for that. And maybe let me also bring in Olive. Olive, you can also come in and you let us know like what is okay. We know that these children we are talking about can actually learn all this from somewhere else. Like the way we've said, if we don't tell them, someone else is going to tell them. But why is it very important for a parent to be the first one to talk to the child about this? To be the first one to initiate this kind of talk. Why is it so important? Olive, you can come in.
Oh, thank you, Irene. Hello, everyone. I must say, like Fred said, and the previous speakers, we really are learning a lot. Um, Maybe to talk about what Fred was saying, why is the son hiding? I think the son understands that there is a reason to hide. That is a private part. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, to look back, because you had asked before, how do the parents initiate these talks? That's something I wanted to add on. First of all, the parents have to understand that it's now called the tech talk is overtaking the sex talk, yeah? Whereby our children access all this via media and via technology. Yeah? So the earlier you do it, the better, just as our previous speakers have said. So how do we initiate it? Yeah, they are telling them to ask questions rather than simply sharing information. Yeah. So we tell the parents, if you feel shy to just start immediately talking about it, start by asking simple questions. Ask your child, "Hi, is your friend dating? What do you think about it?" Things like that. There you're initiating the talk. Yeah. Then the other way to initiate it is to start small. Start small. Don't just start big, like the big talk at once. Start with smaller talks. Do you find anyone attractive in class? Like the simple talks. Yeah? Like, don't go immediately to the big sex talk as per se. Then don't just preach abstinence. If you're initiating this talk, don't just preach abstinence. Like how the previous speakers have said, like talk about the dangers of the early pregnancies, talk about the contraceptives, talk about what else they can do in case, because by the time you do that talk, some of them might be pregnant before they know it. I think my network. Okay, I'm
It's
back.
okay, we can now hear
Yeah,
you audible.
then oh, yeah, I think I'm now back. Then the other way to initiate the talk, our teenagers, our children love media. Yeah, they love the media, the social network. Yeah? So probably you're sitting and the song comes on. The songs these days, the messages are quite sexual. Start with a song. Yeah. Are you hearing what this one is talking about? Start from there. Don't initiate it from that point of view, probably media and song, because they find these people as role models. Then there is the honesty bit. Stella talked about being honest. Yeah, like, don't get embarrassed. If you're embarrassed, the one you're talking to will also think this is an embarrassing topic. Yeah. So if you're initiating this talk, eh, be confident. Yeah. As a parent, be confident. You are a parent, for Christ's sake. Yeah. Then, of course, it's okay to feel uncomfortable. But I find that the initiation, as you're sharing your personal stories, it's also helpful. It can lead the conversation quite well because you'll be giving from your point of view. And if you made a mistake, probably the child will be like, "Oh, my learn from this. Let me not make the same mistake," something like that. Then talk with other parents. Yeah, talk with professionals. I keep emphasizing that, but you can talk with other parents. They also have children. They've probably gone through it. Yeah. Now, the way Fred was saying, the 1 year old is already hiding. Yeah. So if he's like, "I don't know," he may probably think it's only his son doing that. But as he's talking to other parents, he will get to know kids these days, they're quite sensitive about these issues. Start teaching them at a young age. Then finally, talk, initiate the talk when you're doing something, some activity with your child. The ladies, like the mothers, they like doing it when they are cooking, probably cooking with their daughter. Then she starts, "Are you seeing someone? When you're cooking, when you get married, you'll be cooking like this." Then she's like, "But you don't only be cooking. Before you get married, these men disturb." Like there's a way they bring those talks during those activities. Like the father is sitting there probably reading newspapers with the son, then he starts, "Oh, I'm seeing this topic here. What do you think about it?" So these are various ways that you can initiate the talk as parents. So you asked, going to your question, Irene, why it's important for children to first hear such talks from their parents. This is because parents are the most important influence to their children. Yeah, like Stella said, that's the first contact. So I believe if the parent, what you tell your child, he will take it more compared to what other people tell them. These are the figures of authority, the figures of respect in their life. Yeah. So you are the person who spends the most time with your child. So if she gets to hear something from you, you are the learning points for them. Yeah. So they will be able to push on quite well and understand that my whatever my mother says is right, whatever my father says is also right. Yeah. So to avoid misinformation, because there's a lot of misinformation out there, because if the child hears it first from the parents and she hears something else out there, she will come back. He will come back and ask the parent for what? For clarity. So it is important. It's very important for the parent to be the first to initiate this talk. Yeah. Then we can't, of course, be ignorant of the fact that not everyone means well. Yeah. So if you don't do the talking to your child, someone else will do it, but they may not mean well. They may tell them, no, if you take contraceptives, you'll get sick. Yeah, if you don't use a condom, it's fine. You won't get pregnant. Yeah. So it's the role of the parent to do this. I still insist that's the best method to do it. Yeah. Then the advice to the parents, if you've been putting it off, it's not too late to start that conversation. Do start the conversation. Then, of course, it's hard to talk about sex with children, but it's also the right thing to do. So if you feel like you're going to chicken out, just stand firm, take a deep breath, and continue with the talk. The child does need it. Thank you. Back to you, Irene.
Thank you so much, Olive, for that detailed submission. And like she said, no matter how uncomfortable it might seem or it might be for you as a parent, you surely have and should have that conversation. So let's also hear from Eddie what he has to say about why it is important for children to first hear this kind of talk from their parents as we think of
Uh,
concluding.
okay. So, on my own perspective, or my own opinion, I mean, parents should understand that sex is not a taboo. Hmm? Are we on the same page? Parents should not take as sex topic is a taboo so that they can talk with their children. Second, sex doesn't lead to experimentation or venturing. So parents should not fear, they should not fear that when they talk to their child about sex, they'll be curious. No, it won't make them curious, but it will make them understand. It will build a concrete, as I said, it will build a concrete interpersonal connection and interpersonal skills. We should, as parents, should resist from believing cultural construction of sexuality as just adult affair. Is that when we pass by and then we see like youth talking about sex, then we mark their name that they are notorious. No, sex is not an adult affair. You can talk with your child, as I said, sex is broad. Again, parents should deliver information which are positive to their children without caring about gender. This is because parents tend to communicate more to their children who are girls than boys. Why? They feel like girls are vulnerable and they have started their menstruation cycle, leading to fertility. Leaving alone boy child who will try to experiment and explore on his own without taking measures, and then he will kind of drop into a deep hole where he won't get out. So sex is not a taboo, not an adult affair, and it should not be put like children will experiment. Huh? We should adapt this culture where, as we have talked earlier, about developing a long-lasting, sustainable measure that will help our youth, our teenagers, our children, instead of leaving them to explore on their own. Yeah, so that's my take for now as we continue the conversation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Eddie, for that. And it is true, we cannot, of course, run away from the fact that sex is not a taboo. But then we have to still, like everyone else has said, we have to talk to our children and make sure they don't go astray. So we were supposed to have Moses with us as a guest speaker, but I think his internet hasn't favored him today, but he's giving in his submissions via the comment box, and I can actually read them out. He's saying we ought to notice our children's transitional stages right from infantry, middle adolescence, and till young adulthood. And he's also saying we also need to be actively engaged in their world of exposure by updating our knowledge about what's trending in the world. So please, parents, stop staying away from social media, stop staying away from the internet, because if you are not there, then you will not know maybe what your child is being exposed to. Okay, and as we come to a conclusion, as we are trying to conclude, I'm going to ask one more question, and this will be answered, I think, by everyone as we give our concluding remarks, because I see time is not our friend. So I'm going to ask, like the way we know us in Uganda, there is actually a time I tried to do a video regarding this same topic, and people were criticizing. Someone will tell you, me, my culture does not allow me to have such kind of talks with my daughter or my son. So I will have to wait for when she's maybe 15 or 20, and then I will send them to their singer, who is the paternal auntie, or yeah, for the ladies' side. So I want us to really talk about this, and I need the viewers to actually know where we stand in regards to this. Do we have to always wait for our singers or our children's paternal aunties to do the role for us, or us as parents have to do this as we wait for that time when we can actually send them to their singers? So what is our say about that? I'm starting with you, Jackie.
Okay. I think, to me, the generations have changed. Parents no longer wait for the singers to come and talk to their kids, because you find that some singers are even more, should I say, spoiled in quotes. They would give wrong information or mislead their child. So sometimes I would prefer, if it's a parent, because this is your child, you're trying to mentor and you're giving them the best that you need them to have. So I wouldn't. Okay, a singer would come in, but I would prefer a parent, because some aunties mislead their children because they want them to maybe drop out of school, get pregnant early, So I best believe the best information would come from a parent, because even as a parent, your child trusts you more. Even they have a problem, they will talk to you than even their auntie. So trust starts from the home, then the other people will just polish on top. Thank you. Back to you, Irene.
Thank you for that. And over to you, Stella.
Thank you so much. This has really been a great learning experience. And before I submit about the culture and stuff, I would like to say that this sex talk is very important. Right now, we are dealing with a lot of issues like uh, sexual harassment, we are dealing with rape, we are dealing with defilement and child abuse. These are issues that are eating up as our society and very many of our children, you know. I'm not going to divide whether it's the girls or the boys, but everyone is struggling with this. So it is very important to incorporate this sex talk in our children as early as possible and try to build them up into people who are going to respect each other, who are not going to increase on the cases of sexual harassment, who are not going to increase our cases of rape and our cases of defilement. So, Irene, thank you so much for really bringing up this topic. Personally, I've enjoyed being here. Now, when it comes to our cultural practices, culture is like the base of everything. Everything that we do, there's culture underneath. By the fact that we have decided to take our children and give them that formal education, that means we acknowledge the fact that even when culture is very important, we need to step on the other side and let them know things that culture is still waiting to teach them at an early age. Because our cultures wait until a specific age before they teach the children. In my culture, like Jackie said, you cannot start talking sex and sexuality to a girl until she's about 15, that okay, from 13. And I personally think that is quite late to start. So, yes, we respect our cultures, but let us give ourselves that time, you know, to bend it a little bit and talk to our children much early. Thank you very much. Back to you, Irene.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stella, for that. And I bring Jonathan. Jonathan, you can give in your submission. I believe you, and you also maybe talk a little about yourself as you give your submission. Okay, okay, let's continue with our concluding remarks. I think his network has maybe gone off. Let's go for you, Fred. Fred, kindly respond to that and give your concluding remarks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Irene, and all the participants have also learned really a lot. So, in my concluding remarks, as far as culture is concerned, sometimes culture is where parents are hiding from doing their role, and then they are putting it on culture, and yet it is their role to build even the culture that their children are going to inherit and move with. So let's not hide behind culture. I want to call upon parents, especially the men, the fathers, should come out and be bold. I know many of them shy away from this. We have a sexual purity program that we run. But when the male guides are there and then these things start, they are very shy about these things and very quick to send children to their mothers when it comes to these issues. The mothers are not the only experts of these things. The men have to come on board and start speaking about these things boldly and confidently. And also, I would also talk about the values. We need to instill values in our children. The values are very important. I know that in the age that we are in, yes, there's a lot of information and children can access the things, and there's also some permissiveness, which is okay, but also we need to put emphasis on certain values, things like virginity. They have become irrelevant, not important things, not treasured. And those things would protect. And even now, we can still promote virginity and say it's good. It's a good thing to be a virgin until the time when you officially start sexual activity. There is no problem with that. But those are talks that you can rarely here. Those are values that have long been forgotten. So we need to go back to some of those from the family level where we prepare our children, because what they see us do as parents is exactly what they are going to do. And maybe as I conclude, also, I think we need to get rid of the mindset that says parents are superstars. Parents don't do, don't go wrong. Parents are always right. I think that is also not a good culture. Depending on the age of the child, they should be able to learn from our experiences as parents. We should be honest and open to them, and also be open enough to share even our struggles as we grow up when it comes to sexuality, so that the children can be able to identify with us. But the society where I come from is where a parent is equivalent to a god. A parent is perfect, a parent is right, they cannot go wrong. So you can't even identify with them. I remember my parents were always the best in class. That is what you would hear. They were succeeding at everything, which is not the reality of life. So these children fail to identify with us. So as I conclude, and encouraging the parents, let the parents be honest and truthful and open to their children, and even share experiences where appropriate, their own struggles when it comes to sexuality. The children will be able to identify and learn from their experiences. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fred, for that and the concluding remarks. And he has posed a challenge to the fathers. You should also start playing your role and talking to the young boys, because there is a time my brother was telling us of how they go for fellowship, and as they are in fellowship they start binding because they don't know that having actually those wet dreams is something normal, and it's something they have to go through to experience as they grow up. So you find someone is being frustrated, a boy in senior two, senior one, being frustrated because of having such dreams, the wet dreams. So as parents, that is also a role we have to play. The fathers, please, you have to also really play that role, and don't leave it to the mothers, because there are some things mothers cannot actually do when it comes to boys as they grow up. So I'm giving Jonathan an opportunity, I think, to say something since he has joined the studios. Jonathan, you can say something, then we give other guest speakers time to give their concluding remarks.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, I apologize. I joined this broadcast a bit late, but I was able to pick up from where I found you. Sexual education should be something that should be imparted, more especially with our new generation. Our generation is so exposed, like we know stuff like so much. Okay, now a number of us have been privileged to get this information and use it well. But then there are so many of our peers that do not have the right information, and they usually mess up. It is very common these days with the younger generation so much. So I don't know what the plans are, but they should streamline a flow or like a procedure on how they can impart this information to the young ones. It could start from a family level, then also at community level. It could be like at schools, at even the universities. Most people at universities neglect this thing. They neglect the whole topic or the whole idea. Then at the family level, most of our parents feel embarrassed to settle down with their children and speak with them. I don't know what's the case in some homes. My very own, I am actually glad that some of this information and this advice I am able to get from parents, but they need to streamline the flow of this information so that it is given to the right people who actually need it and who can put it to good use. That is all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jonathan, for your submissions, and thank you for joining the studios. We are happy to have you. So let's have Olive giving her concluding remarks.
Uh,
Olive, are you there?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm there. Am I audible? I think my network is disturbing me today.
It's okay.
So
We can hear you.
okay. My parting shot would be kids need information from an adult they trust. Yeah. So you've asked us about the advice we can give to parents who feel the cultures don't allow them to have sex talks with their children. Yeah? That we have some cultures where the discussion of these sexuality issues to the children are taboo. But we also have parents response, yeah, where you find that the parent can say, if I hear anyone talking about this, I'm going to disown you. If you get pregnant, never come back to my house. So they talk about some of these issues with the arousal of fear. Yeah. So the children need all this information from people they trust. And the people they trust the most definitely have to be their parents. So the parents have to get closer to their children so that children are able to address their concerns and these issues with them as well. So in conclusion, I would say like if as families, some families have rules, strict rules and regulations. You're 18 or 20. Yeah? But they have to realize that talks about sexuality and sex have to be done even before the kids start doing what? Dating. So I'll still go back to that same idea like parents, be confident. Talk to your children. This is not a taboo. This is something which is real and it's happening. So the earlier you do it, the better. Then maybe I read the point of our single parents. I think we didn't talk about, we have fathers who are raising daughters alone. We have mothers who are raising sons alone without father figures. I would say for such instances, they can't help. Yeah. That's when I think the culture tried to bring in that aspect of singers, uncles, yeah. But they have to be trustworthy adults to the family. So whereby in case the single mother can't talk to the son, let her read something about it. Let her seek out professional help, but let her also seek out that adult she can trust. You can tell the church leader to talk to your son, things like that. So maybe that's the other aspect I wanted to bring in. But all in all, this is a talk which has to be done, and the earlier you do it, the better. So parents, let's talk to our children. Let's make them our friends and talk to them. Thank you, Irene.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Olive. And like the way you've said, it's true for the single parents, both the ladies and the gentlemen, or the mothers and the fathers who are actually raising children of different sex should seek for help at a later age. But from the beginning, of course, like the way we've said, it's you, the parent, who can initiate that talk. At a tender age, there is nothing like this is a boy or this is a girl. The parent can play that role. And that's when it is actually so essential or necessary for the parent to start that kind of talk, so that by the time you are asking for help from someone else, your child already knows the values, so that they don't be misled, because you will not be there to listen to what the other person is going to be talking to your child about, or what they are going to actually say. So let me bring in Eddie to also give his concluding remarks.
Hello again. My take home message as my conclusion. I'm in support with Oliver, Olivia. Yeah, single parents nowadays are raising their children, making even uncles to chip in and also initiate positive advice on sexuality on the kids. But concluding, let me just be brief. In respect to comprehensive sexuality education, it should start at a domestic context, first level, from our parents at a tender age to our children, so that they can know that sex is natural, moral, and not wayward. Again, it takes a child, it takes a community to raise a child. We cannot do it alone. Just parents can do can do in a small percentage. But though we want a community also where they can chip in and help out. So my suggestion was like, if we can involve parents in community education programs on the sex and reproductive health, so that they can learn, get knowledge, and be confident while they're talking to their young ones. Because there was a research I read, parents who are ignorant and neglect the topic of sex topics, themselves they didn't get the education, the sexual education. So it leaves those people who are educated to give the information to their young ones. And there was a research. This topic is not just a mere topic. It should be looked into. Let me just read in brief. I wrote some some notes here. Globally, an estimated 16 million girls aged 15 and 19 years give birth each year. Teenage pregnancy though rate in various across continents, being lower in Europe. Why? Because there is civic education and also comprehensive sexual education. Going to Asia, this is the second leading continent on teenage pregnancy. They have 58 per 100 girls, and Africa is the least, whereby it has the highest 130 per 100, 1000 girls. And in context of girls 15 to age, they account for 11% of all childbirths in the world, though 95% occurring in low and middle income countries. Now you can see this topic needs a lot of measures. The highest birth rate is high in sub-Saharan Africa. Like I can say, teenage pregnancy right now has increased in Kenya. And maybe it was due to this COVID-19 pandemic, which hit the world very hard. So leaving that behind, I've talked about the parents. They should be involved in the programs, education programs. Again, the community, they should be empowered to help our young ones in the society also. Again, in the school-based education curriculum, they should blend in courses like life skill and family life and also HIV education so that we can help our young ones. Cutting short, I've talked much and even I have explained some research in it. But ending the conversation, creating awareness to our children and also our adolescent children should not just be a topic that we just talk lightly. We should exhaust, sit them down. We should know their boyfriends also. We should know their girlfriends also. We should know what they are doing. You see? And this topic, if it's delivered in a rightful way, these children will open up and tell us the problem. They'll even like kind of adapt the initiative of educating their peers outside there. I'm not a parent myself, but I do always take initiative of educating my peers also. When we have that kampunji, I mean group, we talk, we exhaust on the idea. If it's a must do sex, please take precaution measures. Know your partner's status. If you're young, please be educated of the gender equality, human rights, so that somebody cannot sexually abuse you or harass you. So, me, I'm done. Yeah, that's all I have for today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eddie, for that detailed concluding remarks. We really appreciate. And to conclude, I think we have actually finally come to the end of today's episode. So I would like to say, first of all, thank you to our viewers. Thank you for always joining in. Thank you so much, because you are the reason we always look forward to bringing you another topic. Because if you are not there, then I don't know whom we would be talking to right now. So thank you so much to our viewers, and a very, very big thank you to our guest speakers. Thank you so much, Stella. Thank you so much, Eddie. Thank you so much, Fred. Thank you so much, Jackie. Thank you so much, Olive. And also thank you to Jonathan, who joined us, and also to Moses, who has actually failed to join in. It has been the best of the best, I must admit. And I hope we've all learned something. Me myself, I've learned a lot, and of course, not everyone came in. Of course, I know we've all benefited in one way or the other, and I always look forward to the next episode. And to our viewers, may God bless you, protect you. Till next time, have a blessed afternoon.